Hello and welcome to my video for the Squire Sunburst project about wet sanding. In this video I'll be showing you how I did my wet sanding on this project. It will be fairly in depth as far as the amount of content that there is in this video. But I will quickly explain what wet sanding is, and I believe this is one of the better examples that you will see of wet sanding, as the brushstrokes of the poly on this job make it more obvious of the heights and the depths in the finish that you are trying to eliminate when performing this task. I like to call them mountains and valleys, and the best way to explain why we are flat sanding is that we are trying to make one big plateau, or a flat plane. This video really isn't for everyone. I don't expect many people to watch it to the very end, and I don't expect it to get many views. This is mainly because wet sanding is quite boring to watch, and the only viewer that will really benefit from this is someone who is looking to wet sand, has never done this before, and really wants to see what the process looks like from beginning to end. Now I know there are many videos out there explaining the wet sanding process, but in this video you will see in obvious detail how sanding works because of the thickness in the brush strokes and the mountains and the valleys that have to be sanded flat. Though the outcome from any spray gun or spray can will only leave a slight orange peel of depth between the heights and the lows, you could consider this a magnified example to better demonstrate this process. Instead of starting with 250 or 300 grit as I have in this situation, you would start with 400 or 600 when starting to wet sand an orange peel. I don't advise anyone to use a brush when laying down the polyurethane as I have, unless it is your only option. You can see there that I have already started out, and to get to this point, I started off with maybe 250 grit. And I have taken the tops off the mountains, and where you can see the darker and reflective lines, they are the valleys that we need to level down to. In the end, you want the whole surface flattened to the same level across all surfaces of the guitar. Once you get nearer to the bottom of your valleys, you want to slow down your progression by changing to a higher grit sandpaper like 600. This is so you don't overshoot the valleys and cut through to your paint, which is commonly called burn through. If that happens, you need to deal with any damage to your paint layer and lay new clear coat and get back to where we are here. What commonly happens is that the product that you are sanding off gets gunked up in the grit of the sandpaper. So to counteract this, you just add a few drops of dishwashing liquid to your water, and this helps break up the material as you sand through. With the lower grits, when gunking up still occurs, what I like to do is use a toothbrush, simply brush the face of the sandpaper to remove the gunked up poly, so the sandpaper becomes as effective as it should be on the next round of sanding. On my more recent projects where I've been using a spray gun, I have only been experiencing slight orange peel where there is much less of a difference between the highs and the lows. In this instance, with the thick brush strokes, you can clearly see what we are trying to achieve with wet sanding. In the area for the neck plate, where I am wet sanding now, you can see that I am using my fingers with the sandpaper folded over. This is because before I added any clear coat, I put the guitar together with the neck, and the pressure of the neck plate pushed the rubbery layers of enamel paint out to the sides. This created ridges all the way around the outline where the neck plate should go. Because I tried sanding it flat when it was still paint before the polyurethane went on, you can see the orange popping through. And this was still raised when the polyurethane went on, so this meant that I could not use the flat sanding block to flatten this area. On the body cutaway, I used my hand because the flat wet sanding block would not conform to the curvature of the shape required. In all of my projects since, I have backed the sandpaper with rubber that is 1.5 inches square, and the thickness is about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/5 of an inch. This helps avoid ridges that can be created by your fingertips. This evens out the pressure of the sandpaper around curves, and on this body, the sides had no flat areas at all, it was all curved. After you hit an area for about 10 to 20 seconds, you need to stop, dry off the area, and compare the flat areas to the lower shiny areas to gauge your progress. If you continued sanding for too long, you are taking away a lot of material, you could have gone too far, and you risk cutting through the coat into the paint beneath. On this particular project, the coats I laid were not only uneven, but quite thick, so I had very little risk of burning through. It is highly unlikely that you would lay coats as thick with a spray gun as with a brush. What I did was go until I saw no more pits and a solid dull face to all areas of the body. This session actually went for 6 hours, but an orange peel session might only take 3 to 4 hours. It can be something that you need to prepare for mentally, and always put on some music or a movie to keep yourself occupied while you go along. It took me a while to cut this video down to what it is now. Even though this video is quite long, I feel like keeping the majority of the process here. This is mainly because I have watched many of the wet sanding videos out there, and sure, they show you exactly what to do for the flat faces, but I have only seen 1 or 2 that actually demonstrate wet sanding the sides of the guitar. Again, this is here in case anyone wanted to watch the entire session to understand the whole process. You will see what it took me to get from a very uneven finish to a flat and scratch-free surface of polyurethane ready for buffing or polishing. I have only given you the basic understanding of this process, and even though this is generally a quite simple concept, I have not given you all the tips and tricks you are going to need. I haven't even given you a list of what items you will need or how to set up. Go look for a video that is there to give you all that information in a 5-minute video. That will not be hard to find. Using your fingers as I'm doing on the sides here isn't advised. I laid the poly so thick that this was acceptable. The Squire Sunburst project was my first project, and this was a great introduction to wet sanding polyurethane for me. However, I did have a lot of practice wet sanding the paint layers because of all the times I messed up the Sunburst until I reached an acceptable outcome. I do apologise to anyone who would want to see this all at 100% speed, but I just couldn't see a majority even wanting to see more than 20 minutes of this. I thought anyone would only need to just see the ins and outs as quickly as possible to get some idea of what you are aiming for when you approach your own project and do your own wet sanding. The edge work is the main drive for uploading this. Keep in mind that you probably won't use a water-based poly, won't apply it with a brush, won't apply your layers so thick, and you might only have a little bit of orange peel to deal with. From memory, I don't believe I cut through anywhere on the body, again because it was so thick that it would be unlikely, even for a noob like myself. I was just sanding back this because I was not seeing the poly clear up and stayed a bit cloudy on a lot of areas on the front. And I thought the cloudiness would clear up if the layers were as thin as it was going to be after wet sanding. Water-based polyurethane starts out white in the can and should clear up when it cures. The main sign that my layers were too thick was that I waited 4 weeks and the second layer did not clear up, and there was still a lot of cloudiness in the coat. It might not have had the chance to cure completely because I laid the second coat on after 1 week. You will see what I mean in the first shot of this guitar on this video. It is hardened up, but you will see the cloudiness that I'm talking about. I was a bit overcautious as this was my first time wet sanding poly. Considering the thickness of the layers and the unevenness caused by the brush strokes, I could have started with a 150 grit, but this is only drawing on the knowledge and confidence I have gained since. If I had to deal with this situation again now, this would not take 6 hours for me to complete. No one should ever have to start with a grit so coarse because a sprayed clear coat should never turn out as thick as this. As I am no longer dealing with runs and only a fine orange peel, starting with 600 grit is fine. If I started with 600 on this project that you see in the video, it would have taken 12 hours of work. If I had a big bubbly run, I would hit it with 250 grit sandpaper, but have taped off the surrounding area so that I wouldn't scratch beyond the area of the bubble that I'm trying to knock down. On most of my new projects where I've applied the polyurethane with a spray gun, I start at the higher grits like 600 and 800 to knock back the orange peel. As soon as it is flat, I move up through the 1200, 1500 and 2000 grit, and not moving up a grit until the scratches from the previous grit were removed. But any wet sanding video out there will tell you the same. I'm just happy that my wet sanding sessions now only take 3 to 4 hours. I stick to the block to sand the front and back flat, and rubber backed sandpaper for the sides and around the horns and any curves. I don't think I have much more to say about wet sanding in this video. If you have any questions, please look up all the other wet sanding videos out there, as they might answer what you need to know. I have already explained what you'll see in the rest of the video, but you will see me reach the point of having a completely dull and flat looking polyurethane. I'm going to abandon you here. From here on, I slowed the video down to real time because working around the horns is the most difficult area to work on. I did speed up again right near the end when I was down to a flat surface and just going over again and again and again with the higher grits. At the end, you will see that the 2000 grit will take the body up to looking nearly shiny and reflective again, but that is where you want to be just before you polish with a buffer or polishing pads, as I have demonstrated in my buffing video for this project. As I said, I will leave you with the remainder of the video. Thank you for watching. I hope you got out of this video what you needed, and until next time, have a bloody good one.